Good evening. It is my deep pleasure to join you this evening. Warm heart to warm heart, huge upwelling of feeling, looking into the heart of Upaya, the Upaya Zendo, seeing practitioners sitting there in the center of the Circle of the Way temple, supported by the standing dead, the great beams. There you are in the old ancient land of Tewa country, since time immemorial, gathering together to practice. So it's with a great deal of gratitude that I join you tonight. I want to begin before offering words about nourishing our life through Dharma and ecology and the deep Zen act, embodied Zen act of planting food for a hungry world. Before entering into that garden, I would like to acknowledge just maybe a moment, if we can put our hands wherever we are on our hearts and feel the gift, I can breathe. And holding in our hearts this evening, George Floyd and the extended family, layers upon layers upon layers, human and more than human, in the streets tonight, present with us, reminding us of the absolute, unequivocal importance of practice. So let me begin by reading a statement of solidarity and witness from Upaya Zen. Please listen, dear friends, far and wide, near and close, near and distant, as countless Americans take to the streets across this country and raise voices in response to the killing of George Floyd. None of us stands on the sidelines as passive observers. None of us. We are all responsible for our society and for the justice and compassion that it succeeds or fails to uphold. At this time of sorrow and anger, Upaya Zen Center, Circle of the Way, stands alongside the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Dominique Clayton, and so many others, named and unnamed. And we recall with anguish these countless other Black lives that have been ended by white violence. It is imperative that we transform the toxic views that feed racism and other forms of egregious injustice and hatred in our country. And we must address today and every day the reality that we live in a culture of oppression stemming from the very origins of our nation, which has continued relentlessly throughout our country's history. This is why we are saying Black Lives Matter, because we have to face individually and collectively the truth of the presence of brutal discrimination in our country and not turn away from the grave harms against people of color in our nation. We, as practitioners of the Dharma, have moral responsibility to uproot our own racism and transform the systems of oppression that feed bigotry in our society. And we must as well remedy all forms of violence towards Black brothers and sisters with insight and action and actions that are courageous and just. And we must do this now. So, thank you. Thank you, Upaya Zen Center, for this statement. Soon to be available for those of you that would like to contemplate more fully the meaning and the valence of these words. So soon to be in the newsletter coming in the next few days from Upaya Zen Center. So again, gratitude for this strong and courageous statement. And I notice as a gardener, as a Dharma farmer, that's my tag, a Dharma farmer, farmer of the deep old Dharma, coursing in the way. I notice uproot, nourish, break out, feed, words that belong to embodied practice again and again. I notice and feel great gratitude for those words. So let's transition then into tonight's address and not turning away and touching too deeply. Neither one works. And yet no standing on the sidelines or outside of the truth of these times. And it's triple. The times are in triplicate now. Pandemic that we noticed first began to really be noticed during winter practice period, winter ongo in the very meditation hall where practitioners and residents are sitting this evening. And remember early in January, word coming back from Dr. Wendy Lau and her family, strange virus in Hong Kong and in China. So we were present and attentive since the very beginning of the virus. And here we are 6 months later, carrying the truth of global pandemic, huge inequity of who's affected by this pandemic. So first, global pandemic, the inequity of effect, and then this violence and uprising right now, racism. So these are extraordinary times, and calling on us to find our ground, to take our place, and also to recognize the importance of being able to be groundless, not clinging to our identity or our place, but willing to course and to travel the pathways and treasure the roads, as the old teachings say. Penetrate the source, travel the byways, penetrate the source, know the roads. So this is our call, and I address you this afternoon from as a grateful guest and practitioner in Coast Miwok territory in the long shadow of Mount Tamalpais, West Hill, indigenous country, strong, present claim to authority, traditional ecological knowledge at its strongest. I encourage and invite you, each one who's listening this evening, to also read the statement from the Indigenous Environmental Network to see how much resonance there is between the Zen statement from Upaya and the voice of Indigenous people calling out for justice and response. So this evening, we find ourselves at a precarious point, standing at the edge and turning toward what each of us can do to recognize what it means to be fully alive in these times. So let me drop down and let you know a little bit about how I've been practicing. I remember, again, from January practice period, I remember Keizan Zenji's admonition, which has been so important for me in these times at home, here on the edge of the Western world, the coast of Northern California. Just do zazen innocently, he encouraged practitioners from the 11th century. Just do zazen innocently, without any aiming. This is the best zazen. Innocently, no aiming. This is the best zazen. So for me, that's meant waking up in the morning, holding profoundly still, thinking of all of you there in the mountains in Tewak territory, and then turning my heart toward the wider community. I've spent a lot of time outside. My innocent zazen has unfolded outside. So in the morning, walking to the ocean, praying, chanting, holding my heart open, and standing in front of the great ocean. Eyes of compassion, observing sentient beings, assemble an ocean of blessing beyond measure. And this is a prayer from the 25th chapter of the Lotus Sutra. And for me, it's been my innocent zazen call. Eyes of compassion, observe sentient beings and the more than human world. Assemble an ocean of blessing beyond measure. And each of us has a calling, a particular pathway that is so important to find and course upon right now, to walk on the edge, off the trail, into the woods, opening new territory innocently without any aiming. For me, that's been growing and sharing food. And more than ever, that practice has been so strong in these times, where residents in our rather wealthy Bay Area enclave of a community are finding that they have to join that long snaking line of people waiting to receive food from those who have the courage and capacity and training to grow good food and to share it. So I feel very blessed to be in alignment, to live next door to San Francisco Zen Center, to Green Gulch Farm, where my husband and I lived for 25 years, developing the agricultural Dharma and Pharma together, Dharma and Zen together, Dharma and Ecology, Icosnomia, the world household, the living household, the earth household, caring for that. So now in these times of pandemic, there is a bounty of crops coming off of the fields, and it's been our pleasure to go up at dawn or evening to Green Gulch and receive seedlings. No direct contact because the community there, like so many communities around the world, is in quarantine, but going up at the edge of dark or the beginning of the day and receiving flat after flat of plants, and then taking those plants to the public schools in Berkeley, Oakland, Richmond, distributing the wealth of food. And our plan is very simple. By going to the schools, countless gardeners in the greater Bay Area are planting these gardens and preparing for the return of students. And if students cannot return in the fall, at least they can come at their own volition into their public school gardens and receive a wealth of living food. The Buddha taught that there are three gifts that we as practitioners must remember, three gifts that make practice possible. First of all, the gift of material resources, and that is the gift of food. And so in preparing to meet you this evening, I drew on the gift of material wealth, the gift of food, good food or nourishment, because practice cannot unfold without nourishment. And behind me on the wall, facing you, a cabbage, one of the first cabbages that Mayumi Oda painted. It was her birthday yesterday. Mayumi Oda painted this great flourishing purple cabbage in the heart of the Zen fields. And she said, who's to say a cabbage is not also a Buddha? She was obviously channeling Dogen Zenji, who said, from a single leaf of cabbage, become a 16-foot Buddha. And then 16-foot Buddha, oh golden one, radiant one, not always so innocent in your august practice, 16-foot Buddha, drop down and become a single leaf of cabbage. So the cabbage is here this evening, looking directly into you, into your heart, and into your deepest intention. And at the same time, a verse from Thich Nhat Hanh, a special calligraphy years ago that he passed to me, a green sun found in a basket of fresh vegetables. A green sun found in a basket of fresh vegetables. So again, returning to the primary and ancient teachings of the Buddha, three gifts make practice and our life and service, active compassion possible. Three gifts make it alive and vital and innocent. The gift of material support, from food. And Ed Brown reminding us that food is not matter, but the heart of matter, flesh, blood, of rock, water, earth, and that green sun. So the gift of food. And secondly, the gift of Dharma teachings in difficult times. And not just from the sutras, from the scriptures and from the ancient teachings, but rising up on the crest of a wave, eyes of compassion, observe sentient beings, ocean of blessing, be assembled beyond measure. So the gift of teaching that is relevant, raw, sometimes rowdy and randy, and full of resilient strength. So again, the gift of material resources, the treasure of seeking and of teaching. And lastly, the courage to not be afraid. So wherever you are, there's a beautiful gesture. Actually, let's reverse it. And if you're near the living earth, or the ground, in the case of Upaya, the beautiful floor of the Zendo above the circle of the world, just putting your right hand on the ground and calling on earth to witness, to bear witness. So stability, groundedness, and then left hand raised in the gesture of Upaya, or non-fear, lifetime after lifetime. See my naked hand, I am not afraid. Try them both together. And if you're feeling the wobble and waver of these times, then drop down, touch the ground, and hold up your naked palm to remind yourself and all who meet and see you, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to meet you on the living streets. I'm not afraid to recognize my complicity and lack of understanding. I'm not afraid to stand near you and to be present. So these two gestures are primal and primary. And I just offer you, practicing innocently, wherever you are, when you lose your ground, as it's really happened for me, losing my ground, even though I know how fully I'm made of the earth that sustains and supports me. But I lose my ground to think of the Navajo Nation experiencing the kind of loss and devastation, the indigenous world responsible for such extraordinary traditional ecological knowledge and teaching being affected primarily by this pandemic. I lose my ground every day and try to come back. So please hold in your heart. It was, many years ago, Bhikkhu Bodhi, a wonderful translator of Dharma texts, had a moment of awareness where he recognized, oh my heavens, we could do more. There are people who are hungry who do not have the gift of material resources. Therefore, let me serve lifetime after lifetime, as in the vow of the Bodhisattva. Let me, for the hungry world, be food, be nourishment, be drink, be living food again and again. Earth, air, water, fire, space, combine, make me a meal. Numberless beings give their life and labor so that I can practice innocently and groundlessly. May I be nourished now, that I may nourish life. So that vow comes up from the ground. When we put the right hand on the ground, often we'll say the spirit of the earth mother raises up, ancestral truth raises up and confirms the Buddha's touch on the ground. But I love what Clark Strand, poet and haiku teacher, reminded us years ago. No, he said, looking again at the Lotus Sutra, the 15th chapter, no, your hand goes down on the earth and the earth opens up and bodhisattvas pour out of the ground to serve and meet the challenge of the times. That warm hand on the living earth. We are not for one moment, one iota of a moment, separate from this living, pulsing, mysterious, extraordinary ground. In a single teaspoon of soil, more human beings than there are. More microbial life than there are human beings on the planet. Or we could say more human possibility than there are microbial networks. So we touch the earth, touch into the network of decay and life into death into life, and come forward and begin again and again to do our work. So this is a special weekend at Upaya Zen Center. And dear friends who are listening in the wider circle, every year for the last 9 years, we've gathered to celebrate, to recognize, to be present with the ancient lands of the Pueblo world. And again, in January, dear friends, we remember making a pilgrimage with GB and his partner to an astrophysicist, a stargazer, into the heart of Chaco Canyon, the ancient world, 10,000 years old, continuous culture, a transect, that ancient canyon, spending a day traveling in silence, 3 hours traveling in silence to the heart of the ancient world, to the source, and to be present there at the cross point, the birth canal, the opening between worlds, to settle ourselves on ourselves and let our vow come up strong from the earth. Our teacher during Ancient Lands, our teachers, the Swensel family, Roxanne Swensel and her son Porter Swensel, are the children of great teacher and guide Rena Swensel, who reminds us, we are synonymous, born of the earth. We're made of the same dust, clay, raw stuff as our houses. We built these dwellings, tasted them, talked with them, climbed on them, lived with them, and watched them die. The entire community is our home and our earth household. So when we go back to the ancient world, to ancient lands, living Dharma, and taste this truth, it is extremely important that we've had extraordinary guides like Roxanne Swensel, artist, activist, permaculture teacher, and her brilliant son, also practitioner, deep practitioner, speaker of the old world, deep historian and teacher, walking for many years, walking silently to Sankawi, the village between two canyons, with Porter Swensel, as we walked last winter in the snow, not saying a word. And this ancestral meeting place, homeland, the church, the first church of Santa Clara Pueblo and the Tewa people, walking on that sacred ground. How can we but not deepen our vow to be fully alive? At one point in the walk to Sankawi, to that ancient village, we paused on a high bluff and looked out across the canyon lands to the truth of Los Alamos. You call this a nuclear lab, says Roxanne's dear friend Marianne Naranjo. For us, she said, Los Alamos is our church. And standing there on that high bluff in snowy, stormy weather in the winter and with Porter in the summer, not turning away from the truth of the chaos that has come about from human interaction. So, and this is the 75th year of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That bomb generated in Los Alamos. And I have to say, I recently learned that the plane on its way to Japan to drop the atomic bomb stopped not far in Novato, California to refuel. So I feel very linked to that journey. This is 75 years. If we don't have a formal Zen retreat as we planned at Upaya around August 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Wherever we are in the world, we can remember, we can turn, open our hearts, practice innocently, and take responsibility. And then what are we to do? How do we meet the call of these times? How do we truly respond in a way that is just and accurate and intimate? I remember, again, in the January practice period, Kigaku quoting from Intimate Language. The world honored one has intimate language. Nothing conceals it. Night rain causes blossoms to fall. Fragrant water reaches everywhere. It's our job now to find out how to respond to the call of our time. So at Upaya Zen Center, on the next few days, as the moon grows full, today is the 3rd of June, the moon is quite full on the 5th of June. There is a beautiful tradition of creating afresh a garden at the gateway to the temple. And we call this garden the Zen windmill garden. And I love it, tilting with windmills, turning in the wind, turning clockwise and counterclockwise, following the voice of the wind, earth, air, water, fire, and space. There at that entrance, eastern entrance to the temple, we make a garden. And dear friends gathered in the meditation hall and around the world, we can actually in these days express gratitude for the gift of good food, material resourcefulness. In the case of Upaya, there's a real dedication to planting the crops of persistent culture and honoring the food of the first people, the food of the arid world, the food that is intimate with dryness. The dry mind is best because it doesn't rely on any source outside of itself, even midnight water, even intimate language. The dry mind is best because it knows the taste of dry, dusty ground and real nourishment. So these are the crops of the dry world, the arid teaching world of the Southwest. And they'll be planted in community with real presence and celebration and spunk by the people that you're looking at there in Upaya Zen Center. They're going to do it. They're going to go into the inner world. They're going to clean up the garden. They're going to create the ancient pattern of round circular mounds. And then they're going to lay on those mounds seed that was a gift from the culture of the Tewa people. When Roxanne Swensel first saw the corn that we were planting, she said, this is old corn, the original corn, the dark blue corn of our people. She said, we lost our culture for a while, and the Hispanic culture kept this corn seed alive and then gave it back to us. So this corn seed that we're planting at Upaya in the next few days has a long winding story. Each kernel calls out for the truth and willingness to be a material resource to support life. So blue corn, atole, medicine corn, the first food, 9,000 years old, ta'aha, the queen of crops, corn. What is the corn? A great mystery, an unknowing present in its unfolding. And you know, corn grows even in the dry Southwest, which is, the corn is nurtured by thunder beings and lightning beings and good summer rain. And it's full of life. If you're quiet and sit, as I have been privileged to do with, particularly with people who have a stomach for innocent zazen and practice, old Zen, as my dear friend says, old Zen. You sit still in a cornfield, you can hear the corn growing, squeaking as it pushes into the air to be real food and to nourish a hungry world. So that's the first, the planting of corn in the great directions, 2 kernels to the east, to the south, to the west, to the north, and 1 in the center. Circle of life, circle of the way, circle of practice. So first the corn, and then the beans that twine and grow on the corn and around the fence. The great bear paw bean of the indigenous world, dark scarlet runner, with bright orange flowers, and the Aztec bean that was given to us, given to Emily Baker, who was practicing at Upaya, a resident like the residents who are there now, a resident and a young chaplain now studying agriculture and developing programs in indigenous country in the Haudenosaunee world. She's living there now with her husband and continuing to open the circle of the way again and again. But it was Emily who went to Española and received a gift of the Tarahumara, Aztec white bean, and the Tewa corn, and brought it back, as well as squash from Taos Pueblo. So we've, for years, these are plants that are the nourishing crops of the New World. And you know, domestication of primary food has been the work of indigenous people. So when we taste these ancestral foods, we taste the truth of real traditional ecological knowledge. Corn, 9 crops, corn, beans, squash, tomato, potato, avocado, chile, chocolate. And I can never remember the 9th, but I'll leave it as a mystery and you can remember and fill it in. These great foods of the world, conscientiously grown in the way that the Upaya garden will be planted in the next few days. So true blessings. So mounds of corn in the inner garden, a circle of guardian beans, the trickster, the nitrogen, the one who is made of the decay of the world, who carries the code of protein in its thick, wild body. And then outside, the eldest of the sisters, winter squash, covering the ground, crawling toward infinity. I will feed you lifetime after lifetime. So the garden will be encircled by a rambunctious ramble of winter squash vines. And on the north side, facing the North Star, facing the great transect, the great road, the north-south truth road of ancient culture, when it transects, and we are in a time of transection right now. So where the great road transects the deep road of our hearts, we'll plant amaranth, 18% protein, quinoa, gathered and bred by native people, and chia for energy and strength, and tobacco, a gift from Roxanne of 1 or 2 tobacco plants. She dug them up last year. We transplanted them, collected seed, and beautifully done, Kyle and team. You have these wonderful tobacco plants, the sacred Santa Clara Pueblo tobacco, speaking to the worlds inside of worlds. This wonderful jumble of a wild garden. And is this Zen practice? Yes, indeed. Innocent, wild, intertwined, messy, fruitful, dry, unforgiving, and completely open-hearted. This is the food of the first world. And it's a deep pleasure to think of you all planting this food, preparing the garden on the full moon, preparing for Fusatsu ceremony, for feeding hungry ghosts in the 10 directions. Gather around you hungry spirits, everyone, endless time. You who hunger, you who thirst. We offer you Bodhi mind, full moon vow, again and again. And as you plant, and as you taste the truth of these times, so does the garden grow from out of the cracked open heart of your world. The hand on the ground, fear not gesture of implicit truthfulness, lifetime after lifetime. And then the miracle of a garden beginning to grow, and you tend it. Now you have it, so tend it well, we say for the Zen teachings. Now you have it, so tend it well. These are extraordinary times of danger and opportunity, braided together. Indigenous knowledge, traditional ecological knowledge, the capacity and call to follow protocol and to practice, not as if to say, because our heads are on fire, we practice. We practice wholeheartedly, lifetime after lifetime. So I'm grateful to be with you. I'm feeling very tender. I know I've harangued you for a good 45 minutes from the ripped open soil from the living ground, but in my heart is a mixture of sadness and not knowing what to do now, but also deep conviction. For those of us that know how to grow food, this is Dharma and farming braided together, Dharma and ecology on the front line right now, to grow and share food and to grow and save seed, not only eat the food, but also save the seed, as you have perfectly beautifully done. That long braid of blue corn in the dining room by Kaz's infinite circle of the way, by that golden circle with a little bit of an opening, so that we remember that this world is both permeable and semi-permeable. Semi-permeable and also very circular. So by that circle of the way hangs a braid of Tewa blue corn to nourish a hungry world. And I just greet you from my heart to yours with a huge amount of gratitude and deep respect for your practice, for everybody's practice in these times, and for the gift of real life, the gift of material resourcefulness, Dharma teaching that is innocent and wild and unplanned and raw and absolutely serious, and for the gift of non-fear and earth touching. So may we dedicate this evening's teaching and your embodied practice to the well-being, to the wheel of the world, to those who are gathered in the streets this evening, speaking truth to justice. Truth, the left-hand side in Oakland, 15,000 people in Oakland, California. Truth, the left side of the field, called out. Justice was the answer, a long wave as the crowd moved through the minefield of these times. Truth, justice. And so we dedicate this evening's Dharma practice to the well-being of our more than human world and the very human world that we are intimately and fully a part of. Thank you very much for this evening and for the gift of being able to be with you in community. Thank you.